back if you're coming back. I know it's been a while since my last video. I tell you this because there's going to be some interesting videos coming up. The reason for my lack of videos of late has been that I had to dismantle my home studio totally because we've sold our house, and for the viewings etc., which meant a total tear down of the studio, and most of my equipment's at work, at the studio at work, and at work I just haven't got the time to do the videos. It's full on. So I've got a little bit of time now, so I'm going to do a little video here, but I'm going to go back on something that I touched on before, and that was gain staging. I've been getting a few questions on that video, and I think I confused more people than I helped. So I'm going to go back over it in a little bit more detail and just explain a couple of things, because what I didn't explain very well was the difference between the levels that you want going into the plugins than the levels you want coming out at the other end, as in on your tracks going to your master track, etc. So we'll go through this. So as you can see here, I have my usual trim plugin that I use at the start of everything. It's on a snare drum, snare top. Now, I kept going on about this figure in the last video of minus 18 dB. Now what I was talking about was, for the plugins, you want, most of them state they want a level of minus 18 dB full scale. So if we have a look here on the Satson, you can actually adjust the level that the 0 point on the VU meter means. So 0 VU, as I've got it set up here, is minus 18 dB full scale. Okay, so what you want to try and do is initially, because I've got the virtual mix rack here, and that states that the kind of level that you want going into it is minus 18 dB full scale. Okay, we'll come on to the peak meters later on, but for the moment we'll talk about this. So what I do, there are various ways of doing this. You can do this with the clip gain on the actual item, and I've got it set as this little knob up here that I can adjust. I've got everything locked in this project, but yeah, so you can do that. You can do it with something like the Satson, but if you haven't got the Satson, don't worry, there's a volume adjustment plugin in the JS folders. Now I searched in the VU meters in the JS folders, and none of them are the same. They don't apply, they track as peak meters, not VU meters. But I discovered, where are we? This one from LSR Audio. It's a free VU meter, and as you can see, you can calibrate it to whatever you want, and I've got it calibrated to minus 18 dBFS, so if you can see where my mouse is going around. So you can play around with that, you can adjust it. It's the same with like in the slate stuff in the virtual mix rack. On the trimmer plugin, there's a little button underneath here. As you can see, when I click on it, it comes up, and I can adjust that to whatever I want. So that will mean that 0 on there means minus 18 dB full scale. Okay, so this is the kind of level we want to hit our plugins with. Okay, so if we start off, just get my headphones on so I can hear what's going on, and we'll play a little bit of this snare. If I bring up my Satson again, I will have a look at the levels, and as you can see, it's fairly low. Okay, so we'll bring this up just roughly just under there. So we've got, just under or about minus 18 dB full scale there. So that's going to be going into our virtual mix rack at a happy level. Okay, now if we check our mixer, you can see that our snare is very hot, but we'll get to that. For the moment, while you're just doing it, you can just turn the fader down for the minute so that you're not clipping and getting some unwanted noises. Then we can bring in the virtual mix rack and do all our adjustments in there that we're doing. We've initially got a preamp going into the virtual channel. It's my kind of usual drum chain. then an EQ, and I've got the trimmer because I want to just keep an eye on what's coming out of here. So as you can see, this is set at minus 18 dB as well. So I'm going to keep it at that roughly, because if we put any more plugins in after this, we still want that same level to be hitting the next lot of plugins. Same way, if it was too quiet again if you compressed it and it was a bit quieter, you could bring the volume up. Okay, so that's that one. Then I've got this other, the free dB meter after my effects. You can do it with the Satsum again if you want. I'm just showing you the free way of doing it. So I've got this one keeping an eye on things, because what's happening is when I set this to Unity, I've got my minus 18 dB on here. That's fine, that's okay. But what I want to do after this one is I've got this volume adjuster, and I'll reset it. And what I'm going to do, sorry, my wife rang me there, so I had to pause the video, and I'm back. But anyway, so we got this volume adjustment. It's a free plugin that's in the JS folder. Just go and hunt it down. You can set a max volume, and I'm not 100% sure whether that's a kind of limiter or not, so I'm not going to play with that. But what I want to do is now I want to get a peak level of signal. Okay. So this is we're now going into the meters that Reaper uses. Okay, these are peak meters. And there's a difference between a VU meter and a peak meter. So if we hit the snare, you can see we are over. Okay, we're hitting at 0 dB, which is kind of what I expect with this. The minus 18 dB FS is it comes out around you're hitting, or you can just be going over. So what we'll do. Ideally, I want all my instruments here at this point to be down around, again, minus 18 dB peak, because the cumulative effect of all the instruments, you think about it, by the time it all gets your master fader, you add a bass kick, it all builds up and adds up. So it's better off to start off conservative. Once you've got everything in the box, as we say, you don't have to worry about noise floor, because you're not working with tape. You're not, in the old days you had to keep signals loud to avoid the noisy tape, or etc, etc. That we don't have to worry about here. So what we'll do is we'll just bring this down a little bit. So I've touched the tape minus 18 exactly, but it's not. It wasn't not on purpose. And as you can see here on the VU meter, we're hitting. Where are we hitting? Minus 20, maybe going up to minus 18. It can be a little bit hotter, that's fine. But if I bring in the kick, for example, where are we? Kick. Now, before I bring that in, we'll have a look here at our submix levels. That's the same as the snare, obviously. But then once you add in the kick, you can see it's starting to go up. And if you think that's just with the kick and the snare now, you start adding more stuff. When ideally this submix bus, I want it no hotter than minus 6 by the time I've got all my instruments in. So that's kind of the whole point. Now, all of this I've done with the faders here set to Unity. Okay, and this is just me setting levels to get ready for mixing. Okay. So now that I've got the levels set, now if for example by the time I add in all the instruments and the levels at this master bus were still too hot, then I would just select them all and take them down a little touch, probably with a fader now at this point, and then start balancing your mix with your faders afterwards. So just to recap, going into your plugins, ideally you're looking for minus 18 dB full scale, dBFS, okay? It's not at minus 18 dB peak, it's a totally different, it's a lot hotter than that. So then you do your processing, come out, check, I've got this there just to show you as a free one, but then adjust your volume so that your peak meter here in Reaper on the mixer is, hitting about minus 18 is kind of a good level. And then once you get everything added in, check where your master bus is. You want it to be around the -6 mark to give you some headroom. And away you go, and then you start balancing your mix with the faders. Okay, so I hope that really clears up some of the questions I've had and my really confusing video. I watched it back myself, and I'm sorry, I confused myself. I got a little bit muddled up with some stuff and didn't explain it very well. So I'm hoping this clears it up. I'm hoping it helps you out, and I hope no. See you again soon. Cheers, folks. Bye.